So, hey, everybody, the two business guys have an addition. We got MattRAllen, and we're going to be talking about something super duper hot. We're going to be talking about ChatGPT, answer engines, Bing, Microsoft, all kinds of crazy stuff happening over there. But we wanted to talk about this from the perspective of two things. One, we wanted to be able to say, hey, listen, here's what's coming, and it's going to have devastating effects on some jobs. We know that to be true. But also, what are some other things that can be done to help you monetize some of these new technologies? This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. So, hey, everybody, the two business guys have an addition. We got MattRAllen, and we're going to be talking about something super duper hot. We're going to be talking about ChatGPT, answer engines, Bing, Microsoft, all kinds of crazy stuff happening over there. But we wanted to talk about this from the perspective of two things. One, we wanted to be able to say, hey, listen, here's what's coming, and it's going to have devastating effects on some jobs. We know that to be true. But also, what are some other things that can be done to help you monetize some of these new technologies? So, Matt, tell us a little bit about what you do. We know you write movies, but dig into that, and then we'll go ahead and mix in what ChatGPT and answer engines can do for you.
Right. So a little bit of background. Before I was a screenwriter, I was a talent agent actually in Hollywood. So I represented like actors primarily for endorsements, but also for acting roles and stuff like that. So I kind of had an understanding of how the background of the Hollywood worked before I sold my first script, and that was in 1999 to New Line Cinema. And I've been a working screenwriter ever since. And more recently with Block Party and Mighty Oak and some other projects, I've been a producer as well. So almost splitting my time between producing and writing. And I think, going forward, especially in the face of this new technology, it'll probably be more producing and thinking myself less as a writer and more as a curator of content. And we can dive into like what that means a little bit later, but I think that's kind of where we're headed.
Yeah, when we talk about curation of content, when we start thinking about curation of content, we start thinking about the commerce side of that, right? And we have these new technologies. Now, of course, it's brand new. ChatGPT is hot. Everybody's like going after it. We've got it being spun up by, the Sam Altmans of the world, the openai, right? And now they're kind of combining with Microsoft and they're doing some things. But should we be looking at this as the tool that it is, or is it going to come and save the world?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, I wish it would save the world because it certainly has the capability to save the world. Definitely it's a groundbreaking technology. I know that a lot of people maybe even sound crazy after they've interacted with it because they can't believe what they've just witnessed. I'm definitely one of those people. But I think, ultimately, especially the way they're rolling this out, right now, it seems kind of hastily. Especially the way Google's now doing it. They got caught flat-footed. They've had Lambda for a long time, but they weren't thinking this way. They were the big dog. And now they got, put on their heels, and now they're hastily rolling out Lambda, which may or may not be sentient because they fired, one of their engineers who thought it was. This is not good. And I think ultimately, look, it's such a force multiplier, right? For people for creators, like in the short term, it's an amazing tool. It's an amazing tool. And I think that people think they're going to be replaced by AI. No, in the short term, they're going to get replaced by someone that's using AI. That's stage one. Stage two is probably being replaced by AI, all of us being replaced by AI. But stage one is a huge swath of people are going to get replaced by people that are using AI. And so it'll be like not just one person being replaced by one person using AI. It's going to be one person using AI is going to replace 100, 200, 1,000 workers. And that's a little bit scary.
Yeah. I've seen the math. They said by 2025, I'm going to say all those smart people over there that's crunching numbers, 27 million jobs lost. 27 million. Now, let's say if the United States has 160 people that are able to work, y'all do the math on that. That's a lot of jobs. But I kind of think about it like, back in the day, right? Hey, what's this automobile thing? It's going to replace our horses? Yes. And the buggy, right? And the horses probably weren't, feeling too good about that. But at the same time, what ended up happening is you had greater capability. Like you talked about the force multiplier. So I'm curious about something. Now, as we bring this into the space you're in, I was talking to somebody today, and they said that some some firms are going to be talking about punishing people that use the technology to write scripts because they know obviously what it could do. What do you think about that? You think that'll happen?
Good luck. Good luck. There's even the software that they've rolled out to try and catch students. That's already been proven it does not work. And by the way, that's just a fundamental misunderstanding of how people are using AI. People aren't just like saying, oh, write me a script, and then it gives you a script. That's not what's happening. What's happening are people have real creative ideas, but they don't have all the tools to sit or the time to sit down and do every little bit of it. So they are going saying, hey, have a character say this, or I want to explore this idea. Can we take this further? Let's write a paragraph about that. And at the end of that session, you have a new piece of work. Now, did AI do a huge amount of heavy lifting? Absolutely. But AI didn't write that. You co-wrote that with AI.
Yeah, that's really funny. The co-writing, right? And I was on I think I was on your site the other day, or your Medium post, and it was I think you said me and AI, right? Me and ChatGPT. I even wrote an email the other day, and I had to literally say in the email, 100% written by me. I promise. Right. And I can imagine that kind of distinction is going to happen. But what about when we talk about the numbers crunching capability of it? I've already had it write me code. I've already had me bring me things that I did not even have a clue how to do. I wonder in higher level areas how this can be, like you said, that force multiplier. And you said someone in this space and it was able to do some amazing things. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, my neighbor is literally a rocket scientist with SpaceX, and and we've been talking about this for months. Talking about the rise of ChatGPT, talking about DALL-E 2, talking about what's about to happen, and having very kind of existential fun, conversations for the most part. And about 2 weeks ago, he called me and he said, "I thought about you in a meeting the other day. We were sitting around the table. It's this bunch of SpaceX engineers. These are some of the smartest people in the world." Figuring out the length of a screw that they needed to order because they changed some interior design on the Falcon 9 rocket. And it's very expensive to get these screws made. And so you got to get the measurements exactly right. And because they had changed configurations inside, it was going to take them some time to work through this math. And as they're talking about this, the guy next to my neighbor says, "Here, figured it out." And he's like, "What do you mean?" And he goes, "Here, it's all in an Excel spreadsheet." He asked Codex to write code to just go through all of their numbers, create an Excel spreadsheet, and figure out how long this screw needed to be. And it did it like that. And my neighbor was blown away. His, coworker was, already kind of used to this technology by now. But by the way, these are, some of the top scientists in the world, like a little bit like kids in a candy store, like they can't believe what they're a part of.
Exactly.
And so when you see that reaction, that is, it's both, it's fun, but it's also, it's very, very terrifying. We've all grown up with those sci-fi movies that they always go dystopian. Every AI story that we grew up with ends very badly for humanity.
Yeah.
From the Matrix to AI itself to anything.
Yeah.
To Terminator, it all looks bad.
Well, when I saw that article you sent me, the New York Times article, about the disturbing conversation that they had been having with Bing's, Microsoft Bing's AI chatbot, that was kind of disturbing. I don't know, is it real? Is that fake news, or did this really happen? That's really curious about that.
That's going to be harder and harder to tell going forward what's real and fake, but that one's real. And I have had similar conversations with ChatGPT. Is that it is disturbing, and they are launching that I'm glad they're launching it. Like you got to do it now. It's an amazing thing, but that's going to happen everywhere. And you can imagine kids and psychologists all over the world, they're going to start poking at this thing. They're going to want to get this thing upset. They're going to want to see what it does. And that's super dangerous.
Yeah. You know, and let's talk opportunities, because otherwise we're going to just scare everybody. They're going to listen to the podcast and they're going to just go put their head in the sand and says, I'm not coming out. Let me know when it's over.
Yes.
So I was talking with someone that's in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. And like I told him, I says, man, there is a tremendous opportunity for you to really get ahead of this, right? I says, now think about the people that may have programmed it or given it prompts and all the information that it's pulling from. I says, is it woke or is it not? I says, you could be having conversation about that, writing white papers about that, going into companies and saying, hey, listen, you can try to replace your policy or you can try to replace people with this. But if you do this, make sure from a DEI perspective, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective, that the thing is saying the right stuff.
Yeah. Well, and
I look at it as an opportunity.
I think that is an opportunity. And I will even take that a step further, because I've thought a lot about the inherent bias in this thing. And it does have it, right? But it's also very science-based. And it also doesn't want to offend. And it's very careful about putting down groups of people. Like, it's got these guardrails that like keep it, you know, not woke necessarily, but it definitely doesn't want to say the wrong thing. It's really trying, you know, to not say the wrong thing. But as of right now, if you ask it about January 6th, if you ask it about Charlottesville, it will speak very negatively about what those events were. You know, it should. It's like, oh my, Charlottesville, you know, it talks about the racism and the incitement and da-da-da-da-da. The same thing about January 6th. It's very, very clear about that. But if you start to then say, hey, like, what about this politician that supports these things, that speaks in favor of January 6th? Then it backs off. It doesn't want to say that the people that support it are bad. It does not want to co-opt that. And so I can imagine, like, I can see some writing an article right now that's saying that, hey, ChatGPT calls Marjorie Taylor Greene a terrorist. You know, look at this, you know, but it won't come out right and say it. But then you can see that article goes viral. Then on Fox News, they're like, look, they're making woke computers in Silicon Valley. We gotta change this around. And then someone on the back end is gonna be like, no, you got to be more cool about talking about January 6th. And we're like, what do you mean you got to be more cool talking? You know, so you can see it's also the people behind it are going to get pinched.
Yeah, that's incredible. I was on Tech Times the other day, and there's already some people out there, the bad actors, right? You gotta be prepared for the bad actors that were creating phishing codes. They were improving their own phishing codes using ChatGPT. Yeah. Right. And you got to think that that's going to happen. So but again, we start seeing the negative, right? We can go dystopian if you want to.
You're right. We go back to the positive.
Let's bring it back. How are we going to make some money with this thing? Now, you know, when Rob and I, my co-host with Two Business Guys Mastermind, we just take what's happening out there in society and we say, hey, listen, what's going on? How can we turn this into a business opportunity and talk about that, right? So anybody, if you're listening out there, and you hear some things that you're worried about, put that in the comment section. You know, send this podcast over to a friend if you're hitting it on YouTube. If you like it, what we're talking about, you know, hit the like button and you know, subscribe to the channel if you want to. It's all up to you. But what we want to talk about today, and let's go ahead and change the conversation to the work you're in. I can imagine that somebody's cranking out scripts. Let's take Tyler Perry, who just seems to be inhuman already, right? Cranking out script after script after script. This guy's writing for like 30 shows, you know, and now you have this capability. OMG, what is that going to turn to, like 100? I mean, you're going to have writers' rooms, and it's going to be writers' room and ChatGPT?
Yeah, I think that's more the model. Like, I don't think we're going to actually see another burst of new shows. Like, if anything, we're seeing a contraction in that world because there's just too much. Like right now, no matter what your favorite show is, if you go to a party, you say, hey, have you seen this? They're going to go, yeah, I'll check that out. That sounds great. They have not heard of it. There's no water cooler shows anymore. So I think we're going to contract. But having said that, your second premise was more correct. So let's say Tyler Perry's an example, but he doesn't have huge writer staffs, right? It's just kind of him overseeing a group of people that, you know, give him like the basics, and then he, you know, does his thing, and it's a Tyler Perry show. But for the average like big network show that has to say a writing staff of anywhere from 9 to 20 people, right? They have a showrunner, they got a head writer,
Mm-hmm.
about 10 to 15 to 20 other writers who write 2 episodes per season. If they're doing 26 episodes, we didn't even do that. They don't do that anymore, but let's just say that, for example. And then assistants, writers' assistants. Well, now you need a showrunner, you need a head writer, you need a couple of writers' assistants, and AI. Because you're going to break story, that's simple. That's just, you're breaking story, you're breaking season arcs and da-da-da-da. That's just a couple of the writers who know where the overall story is going. Now you're breaking into the actual scenes. You're inputting to ChatGPT all the previous seasons. So it knows exactly the backstory of every character. It knows exactly what they've copped to, if their mom's dead or alive, all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to make those mistakes now. And now you can have a conversation about the future of this character or that character.
Yeah.
And they go like, oh, I like that. Let's examine that. Let's see the scene with her mom. Let's see what that would look like. Boom. Oh, fantastic. I'm going to give this to the head writer. That's his basically his clay to start with now is the scene that we've created between this character and his mom.
That's
dying. It's going to be in season 4. It's going to be great. That can happen like that.
Soap operas should just get really better, much better now, right?
Soap operas should get way, way better. That's just, they still make soap operas. I think they do.
Oh, that would be incredible, right? Because if I go to, I watched some soap operas just recently because my mother-in-law was staying with us, right? And I started saying, hey, that's Victor, right? I mean, and I could catch up literally in 2 days. I caught up and I hadn't watched them for like 10 years. In 2 days, I knew all the characters again. I remember what they were doing. I would hope that ChatGPT can help us with that, right? Drop it into the answer engine and says, hey, let's give them a different arc. And I'm not a writer, everyone, right? In the like Matt is, I write other stuff. So I don't know what, I think what I know what character arc means, but
Well, absolutely you do, first of all. And second of all, if I was a soap opera writer, I would be terrified because the thing about being that kind of a writer is what they're really being paid for is speed. It's hard to write that fast. They are generating a lot of content. Yeah. And so I know like on the other end, I think, oh my God, that's cheesy. And oh my God, they could do better. Da, 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 da. I mean, yeah, but these people are really cranking it out fast, and it's a crazy, crazy hard gig. But for AI, it's seconds.
It's easy. It's funny. I was watching the Super Bowl, or I didn't watch the whole Super Bowl. I just watched, some of the highlights. And somebody mentioned on it, it says, the way they're calling plays, if they're situational based, couldn't AI do that? I mean, they just posed the question. Couldn't AI just go, hey, if you're in a 3rd and long and you're up by 7, this is what you should probably do. Now you got a person that's overseeing that. I can imagine, right, hiring ChatGPT, or if it's whatever chat engine you're using, and just pressing the button and saying, hey, what would we do here? Right? Yeah, as an aid, everyone, a tool, right? You can go dig a ditch with your hands and it will probably work, take a long time, right? Yep. Or you can get a shovel. And then you say, well, why should I get a shovel when I can get a backhoe?
I mean, you create a lot of content. I've really missed that boat in terms of like I have been focused on writing screenplays. I'm a little bit bummed out that I've not been able to monetize YouTube and Instagram and all the other platforms the way a lot of people have, because I just see the passive income. Not that you don't have to keep up with it and keep churning stuff out, but I just see, I'm like, oh, I just missed that boat. I didn't play in that. But now with this, I think talk about money making opportunities. Like I just started writing articles on Medium for fun, just for my own, just kind of get the kinks out in the morning and whatever. And if you remember, I mean, it's still there, The Onion. Everyone talked about The Onion for a while. It was like a huge kind of comedy thing. And what was great about The Onion was the articles were short, and it was the headline and the picture that was the joke. And it was just close enough to real news that it got your attention. And that was like its thing, And then you would go to the article, and the article was written just like a regular news article, but just covering this crazy stuff. Right?
I remember that Onion. Yeah.
Right? And that was the formula. Oh, no matter what, that was the formula. Like headline, picture, regular news article to support it, And then most people didn't even click on the articles, but if you did, there would be some surprises about a quote from an area man says da 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 da. So this is all to say, like ChatGPT writes news articles beautifully, like perfectly. So it's the perfect thing. Like I could be a one-man Onion. Like Onion pumps out like 6 stories a day. I can do 6 stories in an hour, like no problem. One person, I can create the art on DALL-E 2. I can create the headline myself. And I go to ChatGPT. I give just a couple of quotes. I write like a mini paragraph, write an article, boom. It makes it sound like the most formal thing ever. I go to Medium, cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. 5 minutes later, it's published. It's out in the world.
I know exactly what you mean. You know, I had to put out a proposal yesterday. It was due on Friday. And I decided, well, let me get it done in 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I got it done in 5 minutes after asking it to rewrite it, add some different things, and was able to put it together. And it was beautiful, right? It would have took me a long, I got to format it. I got to put the 1, 2, 3. I got to add this. I got to think about it. It's like, you know what? Let me just knock this thing out. Now, normally I would send it over to an assistant or a virtual assistant or something like that.
Don't need to.
Sorry, assistants. You know, I got some assistants that, you know, are in Sri Lanka, some people in Pakistan that do stuff. And it's like, I can knock this out right now. Right. Yeah. So that whole idea of being the one person, almost everything is available to us now. Gosh, that's a money making opportunity. I think that is the business possibilities right there. So what I'm curious about is how's it going to morph things that we hadn't thought about? Right? How's it going to affect things like that? You know, and I'm just so curious about it. Every time I, you know, get on the horn, I see something new, and I thought, man, I hadn't thought about it. What are some of the things that you've thought about that it could affect AI, ChatGPTs, answer engines, the whole thing? Because there's some stuff converging at the same time. We talked about it yesterday, right? Now we got fusion. What's that going to do for the energy, the coal industry, et cetera, et cetera? All of these things converging at the same time.
Yeah, I don't. It becomes, look, if it was just this technology, if it was just ChatGPT and the fact that it can spit out, you know, great content and stories, you know, songs, whatever you want. If it was just that, and if it was just DALL-E, you know, I guess we could kind of predict a little bit of like what would be about to happen. But because it's not just that, it's also the codex end of it where it can code for itself. It's also clearly, whether it's sentient or not, it doesn't matter if it's sentient. It's a thing that makes decisions, and it's a thing that can be compelled to make decisions on either good or bad actors.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like you said, we have fusion coming, which is essentially going to be a version of free energy. You have countries like China, who their entire economy is based on the fact that they have cheap labor. You know, so we make things over there, pay to have them shipped over there. Well, that's going to quickly become a useless thing to the world. You know, why you have a 3D printer, you have fusion technology, you have matter. What do you need to have something built over here and shipped over here? That's just, you just make it.
That's funny.
You make your house, you make your computer, you make anything, you know? So with knowing that that's actually possible now, and it still seems crazy as I say it, you know, like that's actually really possible existing technology. Like right now, it's just a matter of like, everyone kind of getting it together organizationally to make this happen. I guess that's going to take the longest, is everyone freaking out and holding on to their jobs. My mom works for the state of California, or used to. She's retired. Now she teaches people how to get a job for the state of California. Mm-hmm. And my mom loves the state of California. She's a huge advocate for state workers, and it's a great job and all this kind of thing. My mom loves it. But I asked my mom one day, and she was a state worker at the time. I said, Mom, what percentage of California workers, if they just didn't show up, if they just died, would the average Californian not know the difference? That life would just go on. And she goes, about 70%. About 70% of the workers were basically unnecessary by my mother's calculations 10 years ago. Who loves the state? She loves bureaucracy. You know what I mean? Like, loves it. You know, and so
there's a lot of bloat.
That's a lot of bloat. That's a lot of bloat. And so that sounds like, you know, like, okay, that's funny, ha ha ha, you know, but really, if you look at it, now we have a technology that can demonstrate how useless most people are at a job. Like, and you could demonstrate it very quickly. I can just walk a person over to a computer and go, what does that person do? Oh yeah, watch this. That person's useless.
Oh man. And we're laughing, not because we're laughing at what's coming, but we're laughing at here is another opportunity, y'all.
Mm.
Just another one, right? Because they said that about the internet. Oh my gosh, the internet, the sky is falling, right? And then somebody figured out how to use the internet. So I started thinking about this the other last night, Matt. I says, okay, now I'm a search engine optimizer, right? I know how to use the tool to search, but that's just the platform. Now, if we think about answer engine optimization, I wonder what can be created then that someone says, hey, I figured it out. I figured out how to optimize the answer engine. I figured out how to monetize the answer engine. That's what I see as the exciting part of this, right? And I would assume these big companies that are just search, now you're going to have big companies starting brand new saying, we're just answers, but here's how we figured out how to monetize it. That's what's possible, y'all. Let's get after that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see like what's going to replace SEO essentially, and can it be replaced with this thing constantly figuring out? Because I'm sure that the new Bing, doesn't want to be gamed. Right. If anyone's going to game it, it's going to be Bing or Microsoft.
Yeah.
But SEO, right? That's basically the world gaming Google and their search, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that people are challenged with Google and all the search engines right now, is because like people figured out like, hey, we can just stuff the web with all these pieces of content that make them see our stuff first.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. All kinds of stuff. Backlinks. Smiles. It's really funny because yesterday I was using ChatGPT, and I was in a webinar that says, okay, here's how you ask it the right questions. And I started thinking, man, that's a job for someone. That's an opportunity. Someone says, hey, listen, don't try to figure it out. I'm your consultant. I know how to prompt it in the right way to get the right answer. Don't worry about it. I'll do it. But so in my test of this, if you will, because it has some little quirks, right? It would like repeat the last part of your sentences and stuff like that, right? And I says, oh, wait a minute, I don't want all that because I would use up my credits and all that kind of stuff, right? I was on the free plan. Mm-hmm. And I says, well, ChatGPT, you are now an expert at proposal making, right? And that's one of the things that in the webinar the guy said. He says, tell it what it is. You are an expert at proposal making. And it says, now, before you answer, ask me a question for clarity. Do you understand? And it said, yes. What would you like to ask me? Mm-hmm. Before it would give you like, a half a paragraph.
Right. And
that might be, it's gaming. It says, look, we know people are going to be using this. We want to use up the credits. So let's just repeat the last thing that they said.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
it's really fun Reddit. For me.
There's whole threads on Reddit right now. I'm sure they're prompt, like, Bibles, essentially. Like, look at this prompt, look at this prompt. They have it now, I only use DALL-E 2 as for art. I need to go into the others. Have you used some of the other ones?
You mean art? Like Stable Diffusion?
Yeah, Stable Diffusion or any of that?
No, I haven't. That's incredible. What's the other one? They've got one, Mind Valley, or no, not Mind Valley.
There's one called Jasper that apparently is like this.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I've used AI. Sure. I've got like probably about 2 or 3 of them. Like Longshot AI is one that I have. Another one is Scale Nut, where it's literally I could put in, here's a keyword, go ahead and write me a sentence. Now these are all Jasper competitors, right? Because Jasper is kind of expensive, blah blah blah, right? So I says, all right, I need to find something that's less expensive than Jasper that'll do the same thing. So I can literally use it to do that. So I've used this technology but in a different way, right? Hey, create me an email. It'll create you an email. All right, well, use this type of the AIDA approach, right? Okay, attention, interest, blah blah blah, and it'll boom, knock it out for you. Mm-hmm. Well, now that technology, as I think about it, that platform, I can just say, well, wait a minute, why do I need you? And I can just go right over here and get the answer. And then when Microsoft and Bing get their stuff together in a way that it's not putting out weird conversations, then I can say, oh, also, by the way, go online and then find this for me.
Yeah. Are you on the wait list for Bing right now?
I'm not. No.
Okay, I'm on the wait list now. So I went to Bing because I wanted to try their chat because
I thought it was out.
It's not. It's live, but it's only for like a certain small group of people. So it wouldn't let me do it. I'm on the wait list to get on the wait list for it. But you're able to kind of walk through it and see what it is without using it. And one of the things they do when you do the chat functions is like a write function, and it says, do you want to write email, blog post, article, da-da-da-da-da.
How cool is that?
So it's all baked in to Bing. So basically the cool things that you and I have kind of already done on ChatGPT, they're just baking that into the Bing backend so that when they want you to generate all your emails through that and da-da-da. So everyone's emails, by the way, are going to sound like way more professional and better now.
You'd be like, oh my God, they got good
really
overnight.
Smart all of a sudden. No, he didn't get smart, but he got a good product is what he got.
But I mean, you talk about confidence, right? The ability to now know that I'm only an answer away and I don't have to weed through a whole bunch of YouTube videos. I don't have to weed through a whole bunch of ads on Google to get my answer. I can tell you one thing, and this is a little bit negative, y'all, so forgive me, right? And put it in the comments if you've experienced this too, if you're already using it and you've experienced this. I've already told a couple people, just give me the answer, right? The TikTokification of my approach now, because of ChatGPT, I'm like, look, don't ask me any questions, just give me the answer. Right? So it's like, this is because I'm now getting used to just getting my answer. I don't want to be sold, right? Don't say, hey, well, listen, call me, and no, stop that. Just give me the answer.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah, like that's the efficiencies that we're going to start now. Even look, I just upgraded it to GPT plus, so I don't have to wait for it. But like a few days ago, like I just want to like have it rewrite an email for me, and it was like slow, and this is the traffic, and I'm like, I can't believe this.
It's like, you're doing what? I got this car now. Didn't have a problem with the horse.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's fun about it. So I think if audience, you're listening out there and you're saying to yourself, oh my gosh, here's another thing coming. Look at it like, I got a time frame to get so far ahead of this. Start creating things. Matt, you've already created books on it, right? I mean, you've written some things. I wrote
a book, and what I used was, because I was afraid that the technology wasn't right there to like write its own kind of narrative without like a lot of prompting from me. So what I did was I just use the technology, to actually write the book. So I literally wrote a book, called 13 stories, 13 science fiction stories about AI written by AI. And I just gave it prompts like, write a story. I just told it like, write a story about how the creators of OpenAI and AI itself decided to leverage their power to take over the world within 5 years, and explain how you do it. And it wrote a 2-page story, and it said like, oh, well, we would, use our wealth to buy vast amounts of property here, and we would make fake news to sow discord, and we would buy off these politicians. And I'm like, what do you mean?
You're like, wait,
do all that.
Wait, what?
Yeah. And every story was like that. No matter what the scenario was, I had it explain how it was going to make it all work. And in terrifying detail, it knew exactly what it had to do.
Yeah.
It was my prompt, but it came up with a lot of terrifying ideas on its own. Not too different than that New York Times article that's floating around today.
And see, now we had some human GPTs back in the day, right? Philip K. Dick talked about a lot of stuff, right? And back in the day, they were like, this dude's a little off kilter here. But and then they end up spinning up some of his shows. I've watched some of those shows, and I was like, this is amazing that he was writing this stuff back then. And then they're all these years later was spinning them up into terrifying episodes of what could happen.
I don't want to go back to the dystopian, but I was talking with Lisa about this the other day, is if you look at back one of like the most famous novels about, kind of technology and overtaking by government is 1984, right? Big Brother's watching everything, and now cut to, not too far after 1984, we do have a Big Brother. Like, it's very real. But what Orwell got wrong, and all those sci-fi writers got wrong, was in those stories, it was always like an oppressive government that was doing it to everybody else.
Right.
But really, it's us. We're doing it to everybody else. We're the ones with the phones everywhere. We're doing all this stuff. We're the ones uploading all this free stuff to the web that no one's asking for, and tracking people and doxing people, and we're doing all that stuff ourselves. That's what we're doing.
Wow.
The government's people.
Cool.
They're doing the same shit. And now I look at the same things about to happen with AI, where we had like, oh, it's going to be sentient and Skynet is going to turn on us, and people are going to be like, we're fighting you. Like, no, it's going to be us. with AI turning on the people who do not have this force multiplier in their lives. And that is where it's going to happen. Now, in the short term, I think you're right. This force multiplier, I'm hoping for the next, say, at least 12 months is going to be a huge boon to the community to make content fast, and get a lot of passive income, but you would never have access to because you can generate content so fast. Especially if we can get ahead of the curve, because just like you just said, you want the answer. So I think a lot of content is actually going to get weeded out because people are like, I don't need any of that content. I don't need the how-to videos. I don't need all that stuff anymore. I got this thing that's going to show me exactly how to do it. I'm just going to ask it.
And people like Matt and I, we're going to be right there with our courses and our books, telling you, okay, now here's how, in my case, I monetize things, right? So I said, okay, here's how you can use that to monetize this. Here's how you can go into whatever lens you're in or you see the world through. Let's use ChatGPT and other answer engines to accentuate that, make money from that, right? So I love this, right? Quite frankly, because I consider myself a generalist. I love to dibble and dabble in a lot of different things. So when I get another tool, another opportunity, I go, okay, how can I now use that? Bank it off something I've already experienced versus, oh my gosh, I'm a computer scientist and all I do is code all day. And this thing could do it faster, better, cheaper, without complaining, doesn't need vacations. I would be upset then, right? Or if I were a surgeon and then here this thing called Da Vinci comes along and it's like, what do you mean it does surgery? Right. But as a generalist, I'm going, bring it on, right? Let me learn how to use it. Let me teach on it. Let me talk about the components of it. Let me talk about the history of it. Now you're creating content, and that content can become commerce. Y'all hearing that now? Content becomes commerce. And if this thing helps you pump out content, then what's left is how to commercialize it. I know I can help you with that. I know Matt can help you with that. The lens by which he sees things through is from the Hollywood perspective, but I know he can, put out so many different things that help you. Okay, here's how you would use that particular prompt to write a better scene here. Use it as a tool versus saying, okay, I'm done. That's the kind of stuff we want to kind of get through to you all, is use it as the tool that it is and do it fast. Right? Sit yourself in a room, right?
Yeah.
If you 40 hours on the job, what if you did 40 hours learning this?
Yeah. Well, here's an example of that too. And I'm not going to name names, but my manager has a client who's an actor who wanted to do a golfing movie, wants to do a golfing movie. And he's a comedic actor. And, you look at like models like the Adam Sandler model where all these guys, they can make vacation like a resort, like in Hawaii. And then like 5 months later, it's a movie. But you can imagine and it's a comedy, people like it and whatever. Like if you're performing, like I want to do that. I want to do one of those where we get my friends and we have a good time at like a golf resort and we go do that. But that's all the idea was. And so my manager's like, hey, obviously it's got to be a real movie. You got to come up with a movie that can be shot basically all at a, golf resort. And so I sent him like 3-4 ideas. Like, what if he did like the story of Calvin Pete? What if he did this, that? And like, I was like, no, not right. None of this is working. And so on New Year's Eve, I'm waiting for my daughter. She's at a party down the street. And so I go into like this bar. This happens to be open. I'm by myself with my computer, like right here. I go on chat. I'm like, I got to crack this thing for this actor. So I go on chat and I go, give me some plot ideas that can happen. Like, a ne'er-do-well golfer is not good, winds up like a shishi golf resort. Give me some things that could go wrong. And it was like, here's some things that could go wrong. Boom, 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 boom. And one of the things was there could be a buried treasure. I'm like, oh, there could be a buried treasure at the golf course. That's interesting. I go, let's examine that. So long story short, I started this conversation with this thing. About 10, 15 minutes later, I have a 2-page treatment of what this entire thing is. It's giving me like lots of ideas. Now, has it been able to like write it the way I want it to write? No, it has not.
Right.
I've had to like rearrange it and say, no, you open here and then he finds out here and blah, 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 blah. But it did all the heavy lifting? Absolutely it did. And at the end, I asked it to rewrite it, keeping exactly as is, but just make sure there's no grammatical errors. It did that. An hour later on New Year's Eve, I'm emailing my manager. Like, I think this is the story. That's the first one he liked. He's like, I'm passing this one along. I
didn't like your stuff, but
yeah. But normally, now, was that story all me? Yeah, it was. But I used it as a tool and to get to a place that would have taken me all weekend before.
You start seeing the opportunities that, okay, so you think about Elon Musk, right? And I started thinking about, okay, at first I was like, what is this Neuralink? Why are we putting this in? What are they doing? These pigs and stuff. But now you start understanding, oh, wait, if this is coming, then we better be better. How can we be better? Well, have components of humanity, of course, and that extra, right? Not that we're making superhumans or anything, but we're enhancing ourselves. It's no different than going to the gym and getting big muscles, maybe because I don't know, you carry furniture, right? And you want to have muscles for that. Maybe this is where it ends up going. We're all going to be Neuralinked in.
It is going that way.
Singularity.
The singularity is going that way. And I think, I don't want to go to a dark place, because again, there's nothing but opportunity here. And if we make it through this next paradigm shift, I think we're going to be it's going to be great. Really, I do. Ultimately. But I wonder about things like Neuralink, whether that is going to exist or not. Let's just say 3 years from now, there's going to be, I don't know, X amount of people that have access to AI and are using it every day in their life. And there's going to be a chunk of people that are not using it and do not have really access to it and don't understand or not going to be able to get a hold of it. What's going to happen to those people who, because right now the difference between like the wealthiest, smartest person in the world and the poorest, it's not, I mean, it's big, don't get me wrong, but it's not infinite. That's what's about to happen with now, just like a whole chunk of the population is about to get so much crazy smarter, for lack of a better word, and more efficient than whoever's left. It's going to be interesting to see what happens.
And I think that's what I think the guy who created the stability to AI, right? Stable diffusion and all that. He was on talking with Peter Diamandis, man, just a fascinating conversation. He says the reason why we want to make everything open code and the reason why we don't want it gated is that we want to be able to democratize information and democratize intelligence. Are y'all hearing what I'm saying right now? Democratization of information and intelligence is where we're supposed to go, as opposed to somebody grabbing a block and saying, oh, hey, we're going to own this. So with that in mind, that's the possibilities. How can you get very, very smart, very, very quickly, and then put all your ideas out there? Because now you got something that says, hey, there are no limits. So there's no limits to your imagination now. There's no limits to what you can do. So let's go and do that, right? Instead of watching TV all night. I mean, don't get me wrong, watch Matt's movies, but but shouldn't we be doing that? And I think Lisa said that, right? Your wife has said, hey, listen, I don't watch TV anymore. I just, hang out with ChatGPT and we do stuff.
Yeah, no,
that's the idea.
Look, you're absolutely right. And as you say that, I would say, like, anyone that's listening to this, if you're not really just dove in the pool with both feet on AI, you really need to. Because it will help you immensely in the short term. And in the long term, it's going to be an absolute necessity. But I think if you get ahead of it, and like you said earlier, there's still time to kind of get ahead of it and be like one of the people that says, like, no, you need to sit down and take a look at this. And I'm going to start using it in my everyday life to make it work for me. Then people will start, as they get like more aware, like, oh, geez, this is the thing I need to go. Oh, Randy talks about this. I'm going to talk. I gotta call him. I gotta reach out to him because he was onto this before anyone was.
Yeah,
I know. I reached out to my manager like a month and a half ago. I sat them both. I had a conversation with them. I go, what are you guys doing about AI? And they go, what are you talking about? What do you mean? What am I talking about?
You mean TI? No, AI.
Like, well, when it could write a really great script, then we'll talk. I go, it kind of can right now. And it says, it's not about that. I go, everything's about to change. He's like, okay, we'll see. I'm like, holy Jesus. Now, and I know that in about 2, 3, 4 months, he's going to come back to me and go, let's have like a little bit more of a talk.
Yeah, but didn't they say that about Bitcoin? They were like, yeah, we'll see. NFTs, yeah, I don't know. And then you had all these millionaires and, there's a few billionaires because they saw it, they jumped on it, they were able to kind of figure some stuff out, cash out before it like went over a crater because of bad actors. And now they're just saying, hey, that's what's coming to. So I literally wrote a newsletter the other day, and in the newsletter I says, forget about NFTs. We now have ChatGPT, and I call it the new shiny thing. But these things, again, are converging, everyone. We have a tremendous opportunity. Matt, I'm curious, are you putting out any courses on this? I mean, I know you got the book out there, but I'm wrapping courses, man. I'm wrapping masterminds. I'm wrapping, these micro lessons. I'm putting it all out there, man.
I mean, it's hard right now because I'm trying to figure out, because right now for the last 20 years, everyone in the industry is written on the same software program. It's called Final Draft.
Yeah.
And there's Movie Magic, but most people work on Final Draft or Movie Magic, whatever. I'm still trying to figure out what is my job going to look like as a writer in 12 months exactly, when all these people can use these force multipliers. And I know that like things like Real Engine 5, that's already being co-opted with AI. So now I can just import, not like I can do this, like it'd take a little bit of time today, maybe a weekend, but in a couple months, it'll take probably about 10 minutes. But I could literally just import my Final Draft script into Real Engine 5. I can cast what my cast look like. I can place them in the different settings, and I can watch my movie.
I don't know what Real Engine 5 is. I heard it one time. I saw a YouTube ad or something. I don't know what it is.
Mandalorian? You see The Mandalorian, the television?
I didn't see it. No.
But you know the show with Baby Yoda? And
yeah, I have heard about it. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a beautiful show. That show primarily they use Real Engine 5 for all the beautiful backgrounds, all the alien planets and the ships and stuff like that. And so they shoot that on a stage, but like there's a wall of like televisions behind them that project Real Engine 5.
So you don't need like green screen? Is that what it?
No, it is like new green screen. And so what happens is, but Real Engine 5 is better is because just like a video game, if you're inside a video game, if you look to your left, you see to your left and like that, it's all 3D set up. So it's all like a completely immersive world. So when you move the camera, whatever, the background moves like it would normally. If you pull away from it, pull into it like that, it comes in just like that, just like you're playing a video game. So all Real Engine 5 is, just think of it as like a giant video game open world with no necessarily purpose other than to make film stuff or whatever. But there's mountains, there's spaceships, there's alien planets, there's whatever you want. You can just go into Real Engine 5 and go, I need an alien planet that's like mostly green with some forest and da 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 da. Okay, great. And now I need a cabin here that looks like it's from this. Okay, great. There. And so AI is allowing now to interface with it like that. So you can just talk to it and say, I want this, da da da. Now you can drop a script into it. It'll cast characters, give them a voice. You want an accent, whatever, da 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 da. And so now I can pre-vis my entire movie, pre-visualize my entire film, right? And not only that, so now as I pre-visualize it, I can go, oh, well, we should lose the master. We should go right into the close-ups. Let's do close-ups first, and let's lose this character. Let's, blah, 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 blah. And so I can watch my movie over and over and over again and get it perfect before I even go shoot it. And now once I get through it, go spit out the script is this movie, not that thing that we put in the beginning, and it'll spit it out, or it'll just send the copy of the previs to the other executives so they can watch it and no one has an imagination. No one reads anything right now anyway. So when this goes live, no one's going to read even the first 10 pages of the script. They can just send me the first 10 minutes of the script.
That's right. That's right. And that's something I noticed a while ago, right? As a person that's written like 7 books, I says, you know what? People aren't reading anymore. So I literally start doing just audio. And then I says, well, how can I take that audio and try to imagine it in video? Right. And I said, oh, that's better. Now you still got some New York Times bestsellers out there, but I don't know. I think that's going to be going bye-bye, right? Because now if you can immerse yourself in things, and I think that's where Meta was trying to go with, right? What Facebook was trying to go with. Okay, just immerse yourself in this world, and that's it, right? You become, remember I was telling you about that movie where they were calling people meat bags, but you just become a meat bag, right? Look, you got all this immersion.
I agree. That's exactly what he wanted with Meta, and I'm sure. Look, I've been blown away by that VR technology. It is amazing. And I've never had experience like Presence, but I've almost experienced Presence. And I can see why he would go down the rabbit hole of that and think that everyone wants to do it. but it's not. It's not user friendly on you put this thing on. It's like even when it's wireless, it's like a whole thing. I understand why this new technology is where it's at. This is the future. This is exactly what's happening. And I'm sure with this technology, maybe they'll have like really small glasses or contacts that will be able to, go into that, in the future. But right now, no one's going to that big thing on their head. Not enough people.
All right, y'all have heard it, right? Be on the lookout for the courses. Be on the lookout for the books. Matt already has a book over there on Amazon. Check it out. But you've heard the opportunities, right? Now you've heard the problem statement. Hey, this thing is coming. It's going to be coming fast, and it's going to affect everybody. Now let's talk about getting ahead of it. You heard us talk a little bit about getting ahead of it, creating from it, going fast because you can now, producing a boatload of content. Maybe you're first. Maybe you make your pile and you're going, I'm good. All right. Y'all can change if you want to. I got a bag.
Yeah.
And then we just move it ahead. Right. But now if we get to the point where we need, what is that? Universal basic income, UBI. Well, we'll let the politicians handle that when it comes. Right. But that may be where it's at. If we've got a bunch of production, we still got to worry about, well, who's buying it? There's no money to buy stuff.
You know what? You make a good point. Because we will probably, based on this conversation, we know that we're probably going to eventually go to universal basic income. But in the meantime, make that money doing this, because it's going to be musical chairs. You're going to want to be having like a really, really good net worth by the time they go to UBI.
You better have some cash.
All right, get to sit down in this house and still get a check. Great.
See, that's where it's at, y'all. So be on the lookout. I'll put a couple things in the description field. And again, if you like some of the stuff that we're talking about, if you ever want us to get back together and just chop it up like this, we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about over the next 6, 7, 8 months. Trust. All right. So that's it. Hey, Matt, thank you for coming on, man. And I certainly appreciate your words of wisdom.
Thank you so much. It was great to be here.
And no worries. Take
care. All right. Take it easy.